So yeah, it's recording now. So I've been actually looking at your stuff for a while. I forget what video it was, but I was going through clips, and there was a clip where you were actually, I forget what you were talking about. It was something about Trump, but I was like, who is this guy? And then I looked and I found your YouTube channel, and I was like, oh, okay, he's coming up. He's like doing what I'm trying to do. You know, we're all trying to make it. And I found it very, very interesting. So, guys, this is Adam Francisco. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Yep, he's a YouTuber. He is a overnight sensation for getting attacked by a Kamala Harris supporter.
That's right.
Crazy, man, absolutely crazy that happened to you. So, yeah, let's go over that first. What
Yeah.
was that day like for you? What happened there? And I'm gonna splice in that, like, you know, while we're talking, I'll probably splice in that. You won't see
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but yeah, go ahead.
So turn it into Trump country. I am a one-man Trump rally. What are you drinking? Coke. Got to stay hydrated.
Exactly.
All right, so you're voting for Donald Trump.
Yes,
How come?
because he's the best for the country. Because he's the best for the
Look at this
country.
weird guy.
Yeah,
He's never
yeah.
lifted a weight in his life.
They call us weird.
Are you really gonna hit me? Are you really gonna hit me? You want to go to jail for assault? You look like
What's wrong with the Democrats?
you look like
today?
Thomas Crooks. You look like Thomas Crooks. You're crazy. You better get out of here before you get your ass kicked. What a psycho.
What's wrong with the Democrats?
You're about to go viral, we got that on camera. Little soy boy. So I've been doing Trump flag waves for like 3.5, 4 years now, actually. And I've been doing this since even after Trump lost the election. So go all the way back to 2021, I was still waving my Trump flag. I never stopped. And so I just kept doing this and interviewing people. And I kind of realized like people really enjoy when I stand on a street corner in different areas each video. I try to go different locations and I just film whatever happens, the reactions, the conversations we have. And so I started about 6, 7, 8 months ago calling them one-man Trump rallies. And that's when the videos really started to take off a little bit more. People really seem to enjoy that. And combined with the fact that I'm always at a different location, I think that people got excited to see where I'm going to be next. So for that video, I was at a place called John's Pass, which is on Madeira Beach. And typically that place is very right wing. Like when I go there, it's usually a lot of Trump supporters. And if you watch the video, I was actually interviewing a fellow Trump supporter when I hear some kids say, F you. And as you walk by, he flipped me off. And that's what got my attention was him screaming F you. So I looked at him and I said, look at this weird guy. And then once I made eye contact with him, I saw that he was like, you know, short, a little weak, very pale skin, looked unhealthy. So I said, this guy looks like he hasn't lifted a day in his life. And I guess that insult triggered him so much that he ran at me as if he was going to assault me. And when I saw the way he ran at me, I kind of saw that this guy's not like an athletic threat. Like there's nothing really to be concerned about. So I was actually preparing to get hit. I honestly thought that he was going to punch me in the face. But I did quick math and I was like, it's not going to hurt me. He might just, you know, give me a little bruise. But if he hits me, we could send this guy to jail for 6 months and send a message to the left that you can't hit people. And if you do, you're going to go to jail, especially in Florida. But he didn't hit me. He ended up kind of bumping into me and then stopping because I guess he realized how much bigger I was than him. I don't know why he stopped. And I knew as he walked away, it was going to be a viral moment because I even said to him, you're about to go viral, motherfucker.
Yeah, that part when he ran at you, I made a whole video about it because there's actually, it's not just you. There was about 2 other people this week who got attacked by Kamala Harris supporters.
Yep.
And when I saw your video, I was like, this guy's his spirit animal is like a toddler or something. Like this guy has never fought a day in his life. When he got to you, he was like, I've never thrown a punch before. I don't know what to do at this point. It was so funny. In the pink shorts and everything, I was just like, this guy, for some reason, he runs like he's 4 years old. His face looked like he was 40 years old. It was like, he was just a mixed bag of just everything that the left represents. It was so good. I loved it.
I've never watched Napoleon Dynamite. But apparently the most top comment I'm getting is that he looks like Kip from the Napoleon Dynamite franchise.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
I've never seen the movie. I think I have to see it now. But that's been the top comment is that he looks like Kip.
Yeah, he does. He does. Now, when it comes to this type of thing, you've been doing it for a long time. You've been waving the flag, which, kudos to you. It's very hard to do that type of stuff. I want to go and do content like that myself, and I've just been working up the nerve and, just trying to figure out how it all works in terms of like the gear that I need and everything. But it's amazing content. I love to see it. But how much? Because a lot of people in my comment section, they were like, a lot of them were saying this is the media's fault that they're willing to do this. And I always say this, that these people know they'll never be in the vicinity of Donald Trump. So when they see one of us who supports Donald Trump, they take it upon themselves to be like, this is Trump, and I'm going to treat this person exactly the way I would want to treat Donald Trump. So what do you think about the media's role in this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, they're completely to blame 100%. And I talk about this on my channel sometimes. It all comes down to the social networks, right? Because if you look at Facebook and Instagram and X and all these platforms, their number one goal is to maximize engagement. They want each user to spend as much time as possible on their website or their app. So it's all about stealing eyeballs and stealing, market share that way. And so what they've done is, in order to do that, they've personalized everyone's algorithm. So, for example, when you went on Facebook for the first time, and let's say you spent 3 minutes reading a pro-Trump article, but only 1 minute reading a pro-Kamala article, the algorithm will determine this person likes Trump more because he's spending more time engaging with pro-Trump content. Let's start feeding that to him. So all of a sudden, over time, your newsfeed becomes personalized to exactly what you're into so that you spend more and more time there. Now, they're doing this with every single subject you could think of, whether it comes to flat Earth, round Earth, get the COVID vaccine, don't get the COVID vaccine, Israel, Ukraine, every single topic, they're radicalizing you to go down and just strengthen your beliefs, right? So for the anti-Trumpers, they're just getting constantly fed every single day high dose Trump derangement propaganda. That's all they're getting. So that's who I blame the most. I blame Mark Zuckerberg. And at the same time, they're trying to make as much money as possible, right? But to do that, their algorithm needs to really radicalize all of us. That's essentially what happened, I guess, to a degree. And only people, I believe, this is what I believe, only high Q individuals that are self-aware can fight back against the algorithm brainwash. They can actually absorb content that's not really being fed to them. They can go out and search for it, which is what I try. I'm a former Democrat. And so I try to watch as much Young Turks, CNN as possible, MSNBC, so that way I'm getting an extreme dose of pro-Kamala content so I don't become super radicalized. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely get that. That's 100%. That's smart. Young Turks, I can't do it. I can't do it with Young Turks, but I do.
Very based.
She's getting there. I've seen some clips of her. She's definitely getting. And how do you pronounce his name? Jake. He actually just put out a tweet where he was saying, if you agree with somebody who's on the right, they say welcome to the MAGA party if you agree with them 2% of the time. And then he said, if you disagree with someone on the left, only 2% of the time they actually call you a Nazi. So he seems like that was like the most cool tweet I've seen from this guy so far. But in regards to the mainstream, I've had to watch a lot of mainstream media in order to make these videos, because I'm constantly trying to point out the narratives and the propaganda and how they try to guide us in certain ways. So I get that as well. It's hard to do, for me at least, but I do it nonetheless. So yeah, kudos to you for actually going.
Another thing I wanted to say was, so I have dogs. I have 4 dogs actually, and I go to the dog park every day pretty much. And there's a woman that goes there who I met. She's this really, I'm just going to say like it is. She's an attractive Latina, right? Okay. But she's an immigrant, so she has a very heavy Spanish accent. And I've gotten to know her over a couple of months just at the dog park. And I usually will wear a Trump hat to the dog park, so people at the park know where I lean politically, which has caused some problems. So with some people there. But one day she said to me, she said, "You are the first Trump supporter I've actually gotten to know." And I was like, "Why?" She goes, "Because I've always been told that Trump supporters will hate me, that Trump supporters are evil, and that they're violent. And you're the only one I've actually gone to spoke to. And I'm realizing that Trump supporters, if you represent Trump supporters, then you're not what I thought. And I was like, why do you think you even thought that in the first place? Has a Trump supporter ever been rude to you? She goes, no. I said, have they ever been racist to you? She goes, no. I said, have they ever told you that you're going to be deported? She goes, no. I said, so then why do you believe that all Trump supporters are that way? And she said, well, that's what my Democratic friends tell me that they are. And so I don't even want to engage with them because I'm scared that that's what they're going to be. And I said to her, listen, I said, the reason why I became a Trump supporter is because I went to my first Trump rally back in March of 2020 before the pandemic. And I said, when I got there and I saw how welcoming it was and how everyone was so patriotic and prideful for this country, it completely made me a Trump supporter. I said, so the next time Trump is in Orlando, Tampa area for a rally, you're coming with me. And she says, I'm going to be so scared. I don't want to get attacked. I said, nothing's going to happen to you. I said, plus you're going to be with me. You're going to be fine. And so I'm really excited to bring her with me to her first Trump rally to just prove to her once and for all that we are the most inclusive, tolerant, loving people. And we are the most open-minded political party there is.
Man.
And so that's what the media does to people. They don't even give us a chance because they're so scared. So, I try to use kindness a lot of the time. Like I don't think I'm extreme. I don't think I'm radical. I really do try to bring kindness to try to bridge to the other side. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Man, so you got a date out of her and
Not
you're going to make
not a date.
Oh man, that's going to be a date. That's what that's going to turn into. It's going
I
to
mean,
be it's going to be the Trump hats are going to be everywhere. They're going to be like roses everywhere. Oh, the romance is going to be in the air. Are you kidding me?
Look, I'll be honest with you. If this was 5 years ago, it would have been a date. However, my audience knows this very well. I have a mission right now. And so I don't know if you know that I'm battling a terminal illness right now. I have kidney failure. So I'm waiting for a transplant. And the only reason why I live in Florida right now is because I'm here waiting for a transplant. Once I get my transplant, I'm moving back to Asia where I used to live because I want to find a wife and I want to make babies, but I want to do it overseas. So I'm very focused on staying healthy enough to get a transplant so I can move to Asia and meet my baby mama, whoever she is. So that's why it's not a date. I'm in a mindset. I'm very focused on my plan, and I'm not going to let any American woman get in the way of that.
Well, there you go. You just said it right there. Any American woman, but she's an immigrant.
Yeah, but she's been here for like 15 years.
Oh, okay. So she's been here for a while. So yeah. Hold on. I did not know that you had that going on. So
yeah. How
long have you known about this terminal illness?
2 years and 2 months. I got diagnosed last June. 3 Junes ago, June 2022.
Wow, really? So right now you're just waiting for a transplant.
Correct.
What is that like while you're is it a hanging in the balance kind of thing, or is something already in schedule, or?
Oh, I have to use a machine 11 hours every day to stay alive. People don't realize that because I look really healthy. You know, if you see my videos, I'm in pretty good shape. But the way you see me today this is me after about 25 pounds of muscle loss. So you can only imagine how much bigger I looked before kidney failure. Because when you have kidney failure, you have a specific diet. You can only drink about 40 ounces of fluid a day. So throughout the entire day, I can only have about 40 ounces of fluid, which is probably the most annoying part. Also, I'm on a machine 11 hours a day, so I only have 12 hours a day to myself. And that doesn't mean that I'm feeling good those other 12 hours. I have to sleep a lot more than usual. And a lot of days I just feel like shit, or my blood pressure meds fuck me up. So I only have every day about 3 or 4 good hours where I'm feeling something like myself. And during that window, that's when I go out and do my videos. If I was healthy, I'd probably be doing 7 videos a week every single day. But I can only do about 2 or 3 a week just because of health levels. But right now, my doctors have confirmed I'm one of the healthiest people they've ever seen with kidney failure because, number one, I'm relatively young. But number two, I exercised my entire life and I always took my fitness pretty seriously, which ultimately ended up saving my life. So the one thing I always tell people is if you're out of shape now while you're healthy, relatively speaking, that's bad. Because while you're healthy, you should maximize that and get your ass in shape, make fitness and health a big part of your life, because ultimately, if you're going to have a major organ fail or you're going to have cancer, if the rest of your body is strong, then you have a better chance fighting that one illness versus if you're obese, if you have, cardio problems already, cardiovascular disease, and then your kidney fails, good luck getting in shape at that point. So it's important to make sure that you're in shape before anything, traumatic happens to you. So that's my advice to people. Just get strong as quickly as you possibly can.
Wow. Man, I had no idea that.
Yeah, I mean, when people find that out, I think they end up getting a little extra respect for what I'm doing. And that's probably why I didn't want to get physical with that guy, because at the end of the day, I have a medical device in my stomach. So if I get into a fight with somebody and they tug that medical device out, that can really injure me pretty severely. And secondly, I also know how fights can get out of control quickly. So for example, let's say I punched him in the face, right? Which I had every right to do because he was attacking me. But let's say I punched him in the face and he fell awkwardly and hit his head on the pavement and he died or was in a coma. Do I want that on my conscience? Hell no. I would rather get a black eye and send him to jail after the fact than me having to hurt somebody accidentally and causing them permanent, damage. I don't want to do that. So, I try to be peaceful, and I understand that what I do, waving a Trump flag, especially in liberal areas, can welcome these kind of attacks. But I'm prepared for that mentally because no one scares me more than my own body right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not scared about these little soy boys attacking me. What I'm more scared about is my disease taking a turn for the worst. So that's why I'm very mentally strong when it comes to going out to the streets and wave my Trump flag, because I'm battling a much bigger battle than this, from my perspective. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's heavy, man. So with the few hours you have, you make sure to go out there and pretty much rep the Republican Party, rep Trump, do it with kindness, make these videos, spread awareness. That's amazing, man. That's amazing.
The bottom line is, once I get a transplant, I might go back to work. And if I do, I need the economy to be really good for me. So I really want Trump back in office so that way, all tides rise under a Trump presidency.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Okay, so that's wild. I did not realize that at all. But
yeah, man.
I guess
I'm still going to the gym 5-6 days a week.
Really?
I still lift 5-6 days a week to keep myself in shape and try to keep my muscle mass pretty high. Even my doctors have said in the last couple of weeks, it looks like I'm putting on muscle mass again. So despite my limitations, I'm still doing pretty damn well, I guess.
Man, just from what you just said, and we're veering off from politics, but I sit back and I'll drink I don't know, maybe 6, 4, 5 of these, and never do I ever think in my mind that something could happen where I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'm looking forward to the most of getting a kidney is to drink again freely, right?
Yeah.
I used to be a big nighttime guy, nightlife kind of guy. I used to go out all the time, bars, not clubs so much, but bars and restaurants. I used to love going out to eat. I can't wait to go back to doing those things, right? Because I don't get to go out to eat that much and enjoy it like I used to, because I don't get to have a bottle of wine with dinner. You know what I'm saying? I have to really pick and choose what I drink and when I drink. But ultimately, the other thing that people don't realize is I don't pee anymore. I don't produce any urine anymore, which is the weirdest thing. I mean, it's good for road trips because I don't have to ever stop and pull over, but I don't produce any more urine. So anything I drink stays in my bloodstream until I go into my machine. And then my machine is what pulls out the fluid out of my blood. So
really,
that's another thing I'm going to I look forward to again, is peeing, which you don't think about.
Wow.
No one thinks about peeing, right? It's just something you do. But when I was diagnosed 2 years ago, I remember right before I knew what was going on in my body, I would stand in front of the toilet and nothing would come out. And I'm like, because I'd have the urge, but then it would take me a minute to get started. And I'd be like, what the hell is going on in my body? I was like, this is weird. Something's off. So finally, after limping around Mexico for 3 months, I was living in Mexico at the time, limping around Mexico for 3 months, I was like, I better go to a doctor because my foot is just not getting any better. And that's when it was figured out that I was, the doctor said, days away from death. The toxins in my blood were so elevated because the kidneys clean the blood that the doctor said in the next couple of days, you're going to take a nap and you're not going to wake up. And I was like, I'm that close to death? He goes, you are, and I cannot believe you went to the gym today. He's like, your body is like overcompensating to the 10th degree. But hey, man, I feel good now. Not most of the time, some of the time. And I'm very grateful that I get to go out and do what I do a couple times a week.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Man, this is a definite I hope for people watching as well will be definitely a perspective shifter, cuz you never think of peeing, being able to drink, so
Right.
many people, even myself. Yesterday I was supposed to go to the gym and I'm like, I'll go tomorrow after I do the interview, it's fine. But you
Yeah.
never ever think about not being able to do these things.
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
look, skipping the gym once in a while is totally fine. But I always say that the most rewarding time to go to the gym is when you didn't want to go. Because if you don't want to go and you still make it, that to me is like the best because you still powered through. When you're feeling good and you want to go to the gym and you go to the gym, it's like, what did you really accomplish? Like you did what you were in the mood for, right? Whatever. But it's when you don't want to go and you push yourself there, that's when it's like, damn, you're committed.
Yeah, there's actually a part in the brain that grows every time you do that. I don't know what part it is, but it's the part that has to do with persevering and doing hard things. And
Yeah.
every time you do something like that, that part of your brain actually grows, and it's a muscle, and it makes it easier and easier to do harder and harder things.
Yeah.
So,
So
wow.
the last thing I'll say on this topic is for anybody watching to make sure they get their blood checked. I know men in general, we don't like to go to the doctors. We wait until we're dying, which is what I did. I didn't go to the doctor for about 13 years in a row. I just looked in the mirror, thought I looked good, wasn't worried about it. But the bottom line is there could be a lot of things happening to you. Especially these days, we're seeing a lot of health issues coming up, and we're seeing a lot of men getting things like cancers. I don't want to talk about what theoretically could be causing that, but there's things like cancers, blood clots that are happening, kidney failure, heart problems that people are having that they don't even know about. So the way you can really get to the quick answer is just a quick blood test once a year, every 6 months if you're more serious about your health. But just do that, and you're going to find out a lot about your health just through a simple blood test.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I tend to do oh, the phone fell.
Yeah.
I tend to do my blood, my hormones, and I get my gut checked, and I got to do a stool test to do that, which is not fun, but you still do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do that. I have to do that at least like twice a year just to know what's going on. Partly because I'm a worrier, but also because I know it's vital to know, especially as you get older.
Yep. Exactly. So make sure your audience knows to get their blood checked.
Yeah, definitely. So, we talked about the media's part. How often does stuff like this happen when you're making this type of content?
Not often. I went to New York last year with my Trump flag. I took it to Times Square, which I guess is the heart of Times Square. And one of the kids there threatened to stab my flag. One of the urban youths, which was a little, I was like, oh, let's calm down. But they didn't actually do anything, so that wasn't really a big of a deal. I did take I would say the worst areas actually to wave a Trump flag are going to be where there's a high concentration of rich white liberals. They are probably the most aggressive people that you're going to meet when I brought my Trump flag to the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which is like an upscale white neighborhood, that's where the people were like cursing me out a lot as they were walking by. So I went right into the freaking, what I should have done is I'd like to go back to New York again and do it in Hell's Kitchen, or do it in like the West Village where there's a high concentration of LGBTQ, like far left liberals, because I think that's probably where I'll get the best reactions.
I was gonna say they're the most aggressive, hands down,
Yeah, I think
hands
that's the
down.
most extreme. Is going to
Yeah,
be it's going to be like that cult. Um, and then I'd
yeah,
say followed by the rich white liberal. I think those are the worst two
yeah,
demographics to do this in front of.
yeah, yeah. Because the LGB, the alphabet community, they have this sense of severe oppression. Like they're right up there with black people, and like, oh, it's quit treating me like I'm black. They have like that whole thing in their mind, and they feel like they're so oppressed. And then the rich white liberals that you see, and it happens with black liberals as well, especially the rich ones. They have the exact same thing because they have a lot of luxury beliefs. And a luxury belief is something like, for people who don't know, it's something like you know, no person is illegal, and we should let everybody in. And it's because you live in Beverly Hills or you live in some gated community and no one can even get in there. So you have this luxury belief of, what's the problem if 15 million people come in, 20 million people? What's the big deal? It's because it doesn't affect them either way. They're
Correct.
always going to be rich. Once you're a certain amount of rich, it doesn't really matter who the president is, you know, unless they're, you know, a Marxist like Kamala Harris. Then it might impact you later down the road and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's those luxury beliefs that keep those people in that range, and then they also feel like they're fighting for those oppressed people. They're fighting for those urban youths. You know, it's interesting.
But they don't take any of them into their homes. They don't give housing or anybody. And then, like you said, a luxury belief would be, they don't care about inflation or gas prices because they can afford it. Even if gas prices doubled from here, the rich person, it wouldn't really impact their day to day. But someone like me or you, it would impact us. I don't want to pay $5 a gallon for gas. I liked it when we had Trump and it was $2 for all 4 years. A lot of liberals say, oh, it's because we had a pandemic. No, gas was cheap all 4 years under Trump's presidency, as well as inflation was under 2% all of Trump's presidency annually. So they keep trying to change the story around and say, oh, the economy was only good after the pandemic. No, it was always good during Trump's term. But yeah, that's why I see these elitists that go on TV and endorse people. And it means nothing to me because they're out of touch. Unless you're also rich, it doesn't. I mean, you're exactly right. You have luxury beliefs. It does not have any impact on the average American.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's so wild to see. That's why you see Robert De Niro, and it's like, I've made so many videos about Robert De Niro, and I'm like, he's been a millionaire since the 70s. Like, what does he know about anything? The only regular people he interacts with are employees. That's it. And they all have to kind of bow down to him. So it's like he doesn't have any actual interactions. That's why when he did that little speech in New York and there were people yelling at him, telling him he sucked and everything, he didn't know how to act. And he started telling them to F off. He didn't, because he's never had people just be in his face and be like, you suck. What you're doing is terrible. They never get told that. These celebrities, these rich types, they never get told what they're doing is wrong or what they're thinking is wrong. So yeah, it's interesting to see all these people doing, like, all these rich celebrities doing this. And then, also you can get conspiratorial, and then all of a sudden you're like, what do they have on these people that they're willing to do this?
Let me just say about that. I don't always think necessarily that they might I think some of them for sure they have something on them, right? But I don't think all of them. I think some of them don't really have much. But what I believe is they know that in order to stay in line and in order to get the next role or get the next award, they have to just mimic and stay on the side of the Democrats. So they do that just to show that they're a good little soldier. Even if there's no blackmail available, they're just showing, like, I'm going to stay in line. I bet a lot of these people, when they get in the booth and they're going to be voting in private, I bet some of them are actually going to vote for Trump. They just can't come out and verbally say that.
Maybe it's because I have to all the time do this research and look into this stuff, but I could not imagine anybody really voting for Biden and now Kamala Harris. I can't imagine it. When you know everything about them and you're seeing all the stuff that they do, and Kamala Harris's campaign right now has been the most dishonest, media-fueled campaign I've ever seen in my life. And the fact that some people aren't I think you're right. It's impossible that these people aren't picking up on it. And I think a lot of them will go over to Trump, secretly, like when they're by themselves, like you said. But yeah, I don't see how you couldn't, honestly,
I have, I used to work in the New York City advertising scene. That was my job. I used to work at some of the biggest media agencies. And I wasn't political at the time when I worked there. But I've kept in touch with some of the people that I used to have as clients and, friends and coworkers in the industry. And they've told me, I mean, this was back in the 2020 election, but they would tell me, like, Adam, I go to these meetings with all my coworkers and there's 10 of us and 9 of them are openly bad-mouthing Trump. And I'm there in the room as the only Trump supporter. And I can't say anything because it'll be 9-on-1. And plus I'll end up getting isolated and I don't want to make working here uncomfortable for myself. So even the Trump supporters in places like New York, they're beaten down, like mentally and emotionally, where they can't say anything. Yeah. And so the liberals never hear the other side. And also the liberals, they never think they met a Trump supporter because the Trump supporters aren't being open about it. So I just feel like that's part of why when you look at polls, Trump typically polls about 5 points less than how he actually does in the election, which is why I still feel really good about the 2024 election. I still feel that Trump's going to pull it off. That's what my gut tells me.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you what you think about the election. When it comes to polling, there's a lot of stuff going on where they are showing one thing. One thing that they did is that there was an actual pop when Kamala first announced. There was an actual pop of support, but the media kind of took that snapshot and ran with it for weeks after.
Yeah,
for a time, it's been Trump has either been neck and neck or a little bit above. And when you factor in the fact that all of the media is on her side, when you factor in the fact that they're willing to pretty much scrub everything she's done, she has all of this type of support, you know, when you really factor all that in, and then you see how against Trump they all are, and then you see that the polling companies are very left-leaning that they use, you start to realize Trump's probably ahead a little more than anyone's willing to let on.
Yeah,
that's what I'm starting to see.
I mean, that's what we saw in the last two elections. I mean, you know, say what you want about the 2020 election, but they had Biden up by like a big margin going into the election, 5, 6, 7 points, and Trump ended up losing by less than 44,000 votes across 3 swing states. That's it, 44,000 votes. That was the number. So you have to believe, did Trump gain more than 44,000 voters, or did Kamala Biden lose more than 44,000? If either of those are true, then Trump wins. And I like to think that we gain more than 50,000 voters.
100%. Because, you know, going back to something you said about, you know, when you were talking about yourself and how, you know, Trump supporters are some of the most accepting people, it's become super apparent over the past 3 months. I mean, with Robert F. Kennedy coming in as an endorsement, Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong Democrat, coming in as an endorsement, and now all of a sudden there's this coalition happening where it is MAGA, and then it's also RFK, and they're talking about Make America Healthy Again.
Yeah,
and this coalition is supposed to be Trump getting in office, and then Robert F. Kennedy executing all of the things that the Make America Healthy movement wants to see implemented. So the fact that all of this is happening, you're seeing Amber Rose, you're seeing so many young black men, older black men turning to Trump. When you're talking about just that 44, he had to have gained vastly more than 44%. I mean, this is the most supported, like, by the black people, the most supported Republican candidate in modern history.
Yeah.
So
I'm really excited. I mean, I'll tell you from my experience, whenever I go out on the streets, most black men I meet are Trump supporters. It's the black women where, you know, from my experience, it's been like 20, 30% are Republicans and 70% about what I run into are, because it's Florida also, so it's definitely skewed. But I'm telling you, almost every black man I meet, unless they're gay or non-binary or flamboyant or sweet, they're probably a Trump supporter. True.
100%. Oh my God. Yeah. I definitely hear that. Yeah. It's the black women that are the real holdouts, you know, because they have the whole thing of, you know, they don't like Trump's appearance. Maybe they don't like some things that he said. And then also when Kamala comes, it's like, you know, we want a strong black Indian, whatever she is, in office. Who cares? Her skin's dark.
I hate to say it also, it's also the abortion. Black women per capita have the most abortions. And that seems to be a really big topic, passion point for them. You know, babies, as I call it, it's just so important to the left that they overlook the economy, they overlook war, they overlook the border. They just need to make sure that they hang on to that right, even if they don't plan on getting pregnant, even if they know how to prevent pregnancy, even if they plan on starting a family and they don't ever want to have an abortion. It doesn't matter. They see babies as so important to them that it overrides everything else. And that sucks because you cannot have an honest debate on policies if you're just so committed to killing a baby. You just can't have an honest debate on everything else. It sucks.
Yeah, very true. That is one of the reasons Kamala Harris was completely focused in on that one topic.
Well,
Pretty much up until 3 weeks ago, that was all she would talk about. That was the only talking point she had. So
yeah. And now they're doing a bus tour. They're doing a bus tour, and it's not a Kamala 2024 bus tour. Like, for example, when Trump does a rally, we call it a Trump rally. It's about everything Trump stands for, right? Not just one topic. He doesn't call it the Build the Wall rally or Build the Wall tour. It's Trump rally. But when Kamala does her tour, it's called the Reproductive Freedom Tour, the Reproductive Bus Tour. It's like, that's their entire focus. That's all they have.
Is that real? That's what they're calling it?
Yeah, it's called the Reproductive Freedom Bus Tour. They just stopped in West Palm Beach. I couldn't find out the location because I was going to go undercover, but I couldn't find out where it was going to be. Then they went up to Jacksonville. Then they went up to Savannah, Georgia, and it's going all up and down the East Coast up until the debates on the 10th.
Wow, I did not realize that.
So it's like that's all she has. That's it. Is just babies. And look, I, as a former pro-choice man, I can understand abortion under certain circumstances, such as incest, fetal abnormalities for the mother, especially if the mother's a child. I can understand that, right? I still don't want abortions to happen, but my issue with abortion is elective abortions. It's the ones that are being used as Plan B. That's my issue, is the elective abortions. I have a problem with those because I was adopted myself. My biological mother did not abort me. And so my own existence is because I was adopted. So I'm a big proponent of adoption, not abortion. And but that's all Kamala has, and it's really sad.
Yeah. Well, that answers one of my questions. I was going to ask you what you think of Kamala Harris. Because
I'll just be honest with you. She actually, first of all, for her age, I think she's actually an attractive woman. Somewhat attractive.
She has a nice smile. She does.
Yeah, for a 60-year-old woman, not bad. 59, whatever. 60-year-old woman, she's not bad. There are moments where I can see how she's endearing. There are some moments where I watch her interact with like people, and I can see how the left would like think that she's endearing. But when I just look at her actual policies and her record, I can't stand her. And her laugh. She laughs at the most inappropriate times. And I just her policy, like for example, taxing unrealized gains is gonna cripple our economy. It's gonna destroy the stock market. So like when you and then price caps, and then opening the border wide open to 20 million illegals, like you can't look at her record and support that. So as a person, she annoys me a little bit, but I could see like hints of likability. But her policies are all just terrible across the board.
Yeah, her policies, her record, I mean, what she's done in the past. I mean, listening to one gentleman who was wrongly convicted because of her, spent 6.5 years in jail. His last name's Love. I forget what his first name is, but
yeah, I saw him on Twitter.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal to hear stuff like that. And then when Tulsi, I mean, completely wrecked her in that debate, bringing up how many people she's locked up. And then when you're looking at it and we're talking about, black voters and everything, it's like how many, she's in California. How many black families did she actually mess up, locking people up, locking a father away, whether or not maybe he's just a baby father, maybe he was a husband, but just doing that countless times, being okay with it, withholding evidence when it came to somebody who was on death row, and having to be forced to provide the evidence, and as you just keep going. And then for me, because I've been studying for a while, ever since a friend of mine gave me the book Rules for Radicals. I remember it was back when Obama was in office, and my friend's like, you should read this book so you understand what actually is going on. Because at the time he was like, Obama's the worst president we've ever had. And I was like, that can't be true. And he's like, read this book. He's like, you don't understand who these people learn from, Hillary Clinton and Obama. And he gave me this book by Saul Alinsky called Rules for Radicals. And it breaks down exactly what they do. They always frame themselves as community organizers and people who want to help the downtrodden minorities. And ever since that, I've been learning about Marxism. I've been learning about Karl Marx himself. I've been learning about Stalin. I've been learning about communism. And the things that she says, you know, the unburdened by what has been, being unburdened by what has been, the little things about equity and everybody ending up in the same place,
Yep.
you know, all these little things that the taxing on unrealized gains, all the things opening up the border, all these things are directly connected to communism. And I'm not saying she's Stalin outright, but she's definitely taking steps towards that type of, like, 8 years of her and then 4 years of someone else who's just as far left, and America will be unrecognizable in that respect. So when I see all these things and I'm studying Marx and I'm hearing her quote Marx, take a Marx quote and kind of paraphrase it, that makes me even more worrisome of her. So I'm in where you are, where it's like she's a little annoying as a person, but then there's some underlining things where you're like, oh, this is actually really bad. And then she takes a VP that is actually a socialist who's quoted as saying one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this people just can't see it because it's all in its infancy. She's not taking big, large steps towards communism.
Well, they
I'm not
can't.
saying
they
that.
have to do it every 4 years.
Exactly.
It's like incrementalism. You know, it's kind of like what the LGBT community's done in order to get to where we are today. You know, it had to start somewhere very simple of we just want to get married, and that was, they got that. Then it was like, what's next? And now look where we are today. You go to San Fran Pride parades, you see men each other right in the middle of the street. Inside, did you see that video? It was at a pride parade in San Fran, and there was a piss pool. Did you see this?
I didn't see that pool, but I think what you're talking about, there's just two. Pool. Yeah, there was a guy just standing there, and he was just doing it. I think I'm pretty sure that's what I saw.
It was a pool where a man goes there into the kiddie pool, the other man on him, and it was filled with urine, and this one guy was like kneeling into the urine while the man that was peeing. In the middle of the street, kids walking by. And Taylor Hansen, he was the journalist. He went over to the police in San Fran, is like, there's a pool and there's jobs in public happening. And the police were just like, it's pride. What can we do?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
From marriage to now this.
Yeah.
It's gone pretty far.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all incremental steps. It's little step by step. You know, Jordan Peterson broke it down in the sense of how totalitarianism takes hold of a place is that they push you just to the point where you protest, and then they back off, and then they push you again, and then they back off, and after they do that about 100 times, you've moved about a football field worth of. Yeah, you had no idea because every time you stood up. But they didn't exactly pull back. They just said, okay, sorry. Yeah. And they just do it again and again and again. So back to Kamala Harris, when I see everything that she's doing, I'm like, oh, this is an infancy thing. Like, this can really turn into something very bad. So that's my thought on her. I don't think much of her, but I can see where people are a little blinded. They're having the Obama syndrome. They're seeing somebody who has that skin color. It's a woman. There's history to be made, and they're getting sucked into that whole thing. That's exactly.
Well, that's why I voted for Obama back in 2008, is because I thought I was making history. I said, "Wow, first black president, I'm in." That's all I needed to know. I could not name a single one of his policies. I knew nothing about politics, but I just said, "I want the first black president."
Yep. And that's the thing, right? He's a community organizer. When you really look into, again, when people actually look into Saul Alinsky, I'm always telling my audience to look into Saul Alinsky, but when you really look into him, he's a guy that was, in his book, he quotes Lucifer at the beginning. He gives praise to Lucifer as the first real radical. And Hillary Clinton considers this man a mentor. Like, this guy is not somebody to take lightly. And it's funny because when Obama was running, I forget who, I think it was Newt Gingrich. I think I'm saying that name a little odd, but he was the first person to say, this guy's a community organizer, and you guys don't realize how bad this is. And when you just say that sentence, it sounds ridiculous. He's a community organizer. Who cares? What are you talking about? You're being an old racist white man. That's all that is. Right. And he was right. He was 100% right. And people should have really listened to him. Yeah.
I got to look that up when I get off. I'm going to Google community organizer.
Yeah. Community, because what they do is they work themselves into communities that are impoverished, and they tell them, "I'm going to help you." It's exactly what the Democrat Party's been doing with black people for so long. They do it with immigrants now. I'm going to help you. We're going to get all the things. Reparations, of course we should have reparations. This, that. They tell them everything they need to know, and they just amass them and amass them. And the next thing you know, everyone who's a minority, they have so many of them that they become a majority. They become a force to be reckoned with. It's exactly what happens with the alphabet people. That's why there's a plus at the end. That's why it's T plus. The plus is whoever feels like they can gather with us and will just have more and more power. So these community organizers, if you look at it, AOC is a community organizer. I think his name's, I forget what Hakeem Jeffries, I believe his name is. He's like that as well. Obama was one. Hillary was one. And you go down the list, like there's a lot of these people who are these community organizers, and they always have the worst intention. And when you look at a lot of socialist movements, a lot of communist movements, at the root, there was always these community organizers that were like, this is for the working class. We're going to help you guys. Just back us up. Just be with us. And they're always the people who are easily radicalized because they don't have much to lose and they have everything to gain. And they want to see the game board. They want to see the game board get flipped over, you know? So, sorry, I keep going off. But lastly, I guess, what do you think about Trump? That was another question that I had.
I love him. I mean, I haven't met him yet. I want to meet him. Hopefully I can meet him soon. I was invited to the RNC this year as a content creator, which was kind of cool. I got the invite. I was approved to go, but because of my health battle, I couldn't end up pulling it off. It's very hard to travel with my machine and everything. But I was very close to getting out there, and I was planning to maybe meet him. But I'm a big fan of Trump. I think he's got I really do believe that he's a good person. I don't think that the media tells the truth about him at all. I love his policies. I mean, he just released a couple months ago Agenda 47, which I pretty much agree with every single point that he had. The only thing I don't agree with him is probably I'm anti-death penalty, and I know that he's pro-death penalty, but I'm pro-life, so that's consistent. And then also the one thing that I do support, which again, he did mention he's not going to touch Medicare and Medicaid. I'm a big fan of basic healthcare for people, universal basic healthcare, which is a holdover from my Democrat days, but also because of my own personal health battle, that I'm thankful that I have help from the government during this time where I can't work because of my disease. And so I think that if we're going to have a safety net, it should not be for illegals. It should not be to fund a Ukraine war. We should be putting a safety net for American citizens only. So I'd like to divert those funds from foreign wars and put them towards healthcare here in the U.S.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. It's a very common sense idea, and the fact that it's not being done is absolutely horrendous. I
got one more for you. You ready for this?
Yeah.
This is a great idea. So medical care overseas is significantly cheaper than the U.S., right? So if you want to go to Thailand or you want to go to Vietnam or Mexico, you're probably going to spend 5 to 10% of the bills that you would here in America on your healthcare. So I just don't understand why we don't have a program in place where instead of insurance companies paying for these treatments here, we send our citizens overseas and cover their bills over there. And that would take such a big burden off of our tax system for healthcare. If someone gets a sickness, send them to Mexico to get treatment. They save 90% of the cost on the healthcare for the similar quality. I don't know. I just feel like things like that we should be looking at doing as a country.
Yeah, things that benefit Americans. That's definitely what I've been about for a long time.
And it'll help their economy too. It'll help the Mexican economy.
Exactly.
It'll give them more jobs. It'll boost their hospitals.
Yeah, it's true. I would love to see something like that happen. I mean, anything that takes away, like me and my wife, we just had a child.
Congrats.
And because thank you very much, best thing ever. My whole desk is just littered with pictures, but the best, like right now, because of how we had to have an emergency C-section. It's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to go natural, but now we're in a position where she has to keep having those. And then when you look into it, how much it costs, it could go up to about like $80,000. So it gets pretty wild in that respect. So yeah, if there was something that made it so it wasn't like that, and I could
What
just
you
have
guys,
my 7 kids, I'd be fine with it.
what you should do is how many kids you have?
That was our first kid.
Okay. Do you want more kids?
Yeah, we want like 5 more.
All right. So for your next kid, what you do is you book a vacation during her birth month to Mexico, and you basically figure out which hospital you negotiate, coordinate everything down there. And you said you're gonna have to do a C-section again, right? So you just figure it out down in Mexico with the hospital that you trust, with an English-speaking doctor. And when you're ready to go, instead of spending 80 grand, you spend 15 grand, and you get a vacation out of it for a month. Like, isn't
This
that
should
so much?
be this should be the job. You should make this your job. You should figure out where people need to go and work out the prices and talk with the people and
I'm
sort
telling you
that
though.
out.
I mean, doesn't that make sense?
100%. a
You
hundred
know,
percent.
I mean, you could spend 10 grand on a five diamond resort for the whole month. So you'll get a vacation out of it. You'll get beautiful, everything, that high end of everything, and you still save money from the U.S.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And man, yeah, it's been amazing talking to you. It's very interesting. I did not think that I would learn all this stuff about, terminal illness and this and that. You're a very inspiring person, and
Thank you.
I'm glad that you went from being a Democrat to being a Trump supporter. I think a lot more people need to take a more rational view of things, and I think they could come around to where you're at right now. It's beautiful to see. And just to end it off, this all happened because you went to a Trump rally. Like, that's what actually switched it for you.
So I'll just say, like, I was living in Thailand at the time when I started to look into politics. This is 2019, and the thing is my entire network, Facebook, Instagram, everybody was liberal because I'm from New York and I lived in LA. So everyone was liberal. I never saw anything good about Trump. I never saw positive news about Trump. But then I heard about this whole MAGA movement. I was like, what the fuck is MAGA? And I thought it was like some Nazi thing. I was like, I don't want to be part of this MAGA thing because, like, I'm not a racist. So finally I said, you know what? Let me look at this guy Trump, because I got to figure out what the hell MAGA is. And I watched his Charlottesville hoax, the Charlottesville speech. I realized that he condemned neo Nazis, that he actually literally condemns them. And I was like, but the news told me that he called Nazis very fine people. So I was just like, wow, like, so they just lied, they just cut a clip out, like, that just edit videos. And that was my first one. I was like, holy shit, what else are they lying about? And then we had the BLM riots with the George Floyd, and I was watching cities burn. And I was like, what the is going on? And then COVID came out, and the lockdowns, and the lies to the American people, and the lab leak being called a conspiracy theory. Is like, every single belief that I truly in my gut believe, the Democrats are telling me I'm fucking crazy. I was like, and then all of them ended up being true, almost all of them. And so I was like, wow. And then I went to the Trump rally in Charlotte. I was really scared to wear a Trump hat, so I didn't wear a Trump hat there. I wore like a Pepsi hat because it was red, white, and blue. I was like, that's close enough. And after that rally, I said, wow, like I really now feel like I've found a community of people that, I love the patriotism. And when Trump came out to God Bless the USA, that famous song he always comes out to, he got a standing ovation for 3 minutes. And people around the stadium were like tearing and crying. And I was like, yo, this is beautiful. Like, I had chills being in the crowd for the first time seeing this. And once you're surrounded by that, it's hard not to love Trump. So that's what really pushed me over the edge and made me full blown Trump supporter.
That's amazing, man. That's beautiful to hear. That's very, very beautiful to hear. Again, I had the lucky, unintended education of just making videos, so I just kind of stumbled onto it because I had to. It would be like, oh, I have to research this, and did he really say
Yeah.
that? And where's the original video? And but to hear that you did it like that at a rally and actually saw the people and got accepted and everything, that's a beautiful testimony.
I have
It's
the video
funny.
on my YouTube
It's
channel still. I'll send
Do
it to
you?
you.
Do
Yeah.
you? Yeah,
I'll send
send it to me, please.
Yeah,
That's
it's cool
amazing,
to go
man.
back and watch, and I'm like, wow, I was so baby faced, and I did not realize that eventually, fast forward 4 years in the future, that I become like a political YouTuber and activist, and I get recognized pretty much every time I do a video now on the street. So little did I know that I'd become like a thriving voice in the movement.
That's amazing, man. That's
Yeah.
great to hear, man. Well, I know you said, I believe you said you only have like 4 hours of like good time on your hands every single day. So thank you so much for giving me one of those hours today, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, right after this, you know what I'm doing? I'm going right back to bed.
Yeah?
What happens? I get like 2 hours of energy where I can like function at a high level, and then my body just crashes and goes, you need to go to sleep for a couple of hours. So I pretty much sleep every afternoon. I'll wake up, go to the dog park, maybe do a video if I'm feeling up to it, and if there's enough sunshine. So we'll see how my day goes. I might do a video today, I might do a flag wave. I'll definitely shout you out. Try to get you some of my subscribers over there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still debating which channel to put it on. I think I'm gonna put it on the bigger channel, even though it's usually like JRE content. It is a lot of political content, and it's even more Trump content. I actually have a playlist on that channel. If you ever want to check it out, it's just Trump, and it's pretty
Cool.
much every single positive thing Joe Rogan has said about Trump.
That's
Because
awesome.
people
Check
are
it out.
always like, "Oh, Joe Rogan doesn't like Trump," and I'm like, "Buddy, I got like 70 videos that say different."
Oh, he's voted for Trump. He voted for Trump, 100%.
100%, no
Yeah.
doubt in my mind, man. But yeah, man, thank you so much for doing this. I'm gonna stop recording and then and we'll say bye formally, okay?
Thank you,
But
Coach.
guys, but this is Adam Frisco. I'm gonna link. I want you to send me all your links. I'm gonna link them all in the
Cool.
description of this video. But Adam Frisco, his videos right here beside us. He can't see it, but you guys can. Yeah, check him out, man. Absolutely amazing. Let me just sign off here. We're out, guys.